Let's talk about some of the more visible games on the college football schedule this weekend. And we'll start in Knoxville, in Tennessee, in your parts there. Around your parts there, Chelsea. Number 7, Alabama visiting number 11, Tennessee. The Tide are laying 3. They're minus 160 on the money line. The Vols are plus 130. Your total is set at 56 and a hook. Ooh, you know more about the Vols than I do. They've disappointed somewhat this season. Nico Iamaleava's Heisman hopes have dropped. But are you going with the home dog here?
Yeah, about knowing about Tennessee. I feel like none of us really know too much about Tennessee because they have looked very much bipolar this season. In the first half of the season, Nico looked like a Heisman candidate, but they were doing it against really bad defenses and really bad teams. Like posting a 71 spot against Kent State, it doesn't matter when you're playing the best teams in college football, and that's going to be the case in this big rivalry matchup between Alabama and Tennessee. So I still have questions about their offense, about the accuracy that we've seen from Nico. And I know we have questions about Alabama too. So, like, doesn't this feel like a really volatile game? So let's maybe live in the pretend space that both teams are going to put out their best product on the field. So if both teams are perfect, Jenks, which team has the higher ceiling?
I think it's Bama. I think this is Bama's game to win. This is about matchups to me, and as much as we talk about Nico, it's really Dylan Sampson. Like, that's really what the Vols like to do on offense. As much as Nico gets the headlines, this is a running team more than anything else. And that's the one thing that Alabama does really well is stop the run. So I think here I would lean with PJ. We'll do it for PJ. Also, this number is moving in Bama's direction. Open at Crimson Tide, minus 2.5, got to 3. So let's go Bama. How about number 5, Georgia, at number 1, Texas? God, that feels good to say. I might only get to say it for a few more days. Texas laying 3.5. Texas minus 175. Dogs plus 145. Total set at 55.5. Chelsea, are the dogs the play here?
I don't think so. And again, I'm going to go back to the eye test. It still feels to me like Texas looks head and shoulders above everybody else in college football. And maybe you look at this line and say, oh, you're giving me 3.5 points with Kirby Smart, who's been fantastic against AP top 5 teams. I think he's 5-1 with a lone loss coming to Nick Saban in Alabama. But here's the thing. In college football, I feel like 3.5 points is not a spread that feels like significant to me. Like, especially when you have totals that are in the 50s, like 55.5. Imagine it's an NFL total. This would be the highest total on the board. So it feels to me like points aren't at a premium. For me, I'm just going to pick a winner. And that winner for me is still Texas. Texas looks like the more complete team. We have seen the better performances from Quinn Ewers in these big games because that's the thing. I know you can look at the past history and what Kirby Smart has done, but it still hinges on the players on this year's team. And in that regard, I feel like Texas is better. And it's not like Sark is some nobody. He's one of the best offensive play callers in all of college football.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vegas is begging you to bet on Georgia here. And this is the opposite of what PJ has to say. I know he's a huge SEC guy, knows the betting space. But this reminds me of last week's game against Oklahoma because what did everyone say? You're getting 14.5 in a rivalry game? Just like you would say, you're getting 3.5. You're getting 3.5 points with Georgia because I disagree with the idea that there's this narrative out there that Texas is far and away better than everyone else, right? I think that's what a lot of people who are very, like, you think that. I kind of think that, but I think the public doesn't think that. I think the public believes Texas is still a Big 12 team that hasn't proven anything yet. What does the public think? Oh, yeah, Texas beat Oklahoma. They suck this year. Texas beat Michigan. They've already lost a couple games. Michigan isn't nearly what they were last year. Texas hasn't beaten a real SEC team. I think that's what the public thinks, and I think the public will be hammering Georgia, and this number isn't moving. I like Texas. Quinn Ewers was not good last week, but I'll tell you something. If you look at his history, he doesn't have a history of back-to-back bad games. He played pretty poorly against Oklahoma, and Texas dominated. That Texas defense is giving up 6 points a game. 6 points. They're the number 1 defense in the country. Georgia is good. I don't think they're Texas good, so I'm laying it with Texas as well. Double D-ing on Friday. You know I'm going to lose my mind.
Can I ask you something before we move on?
Sure.
What do you think is the more important factor? because I'm trying to recall this from memory, but it feels to me like Quinn Ewers has been fantastic in these massive games. So do you think it's more important that your quarterback is good in these big spotlight games, or do you take, the trend with Kirby Smart being really good in these marquee spotlight games?
I think it's quarterback play, at least in this game, because the one weakness that Georgia has, and maybe it's not a weakness, but Georgia likes to play man on defense, and so does Texas. But Texas's receivers are unbelievable. Their receiver room is so deep. It's just, whether it's Isaiah Bond, who transferred over from Bama. Remember the name Ryan Wingo, one of the most incredible freshmen I've seen in a long time. He's an absolute superstar. They have DeAndre Moore. It's just one stud after the other. So it's going to take one mistake from Georgia and Quinn getting one of those receivers the football, and it's over. That's one of the other reasons why I like the Longhorns in this spot. Miami at Louisville. The Canes laying 4.5. The Canes minus 200. The Cardinals plus 165. Your total is 61 and a hook. Miami, number 6 in the country, but they have been skating by. Needed some luck against Virginia Tech. Had to have that comeback against Cal. Do they pull it off here?
I don't know. It feels like one of those teams that eventually the pendulum's going to swing the other way. This is also a road game for Miami. And I'm going to be real honest. Do we even still care about the ACC? Feels like nothing important's going on over there. So I know Miami's the number 6 ranked team in the country, and they'll probably cakewalk their way into the college football playoff, but I'm just not super impressed by them. So maybe if you're giving me points with Louisville, the home dog here, maybe I'll take it, but 4.5, it feels like a dead number in college football. So I don't think I'm going to play this one. Maybe look at a total. I don't know. I am trying to feign some interest in this game, but it's really hard.
Well, would you like to talk LSU and Arkansas? I'm going to be in Louisville, by the way. I think Jeff Brom's going to have these guys ready to go, and the Canes keep squeaking by. And they've had a week to get ready for this game. I'm not really sold on Miami just yet, so I will take Louisville and the points at home. Finally, number 8 LSU at Arkansas. Tigers laying 3. They're minus 145 on the money line. The Razorbacks are plus 120, total set at 55.5. I don't know what to do with this one. LSU is right back in the national title chase after that win last week in overtime, but Fayetteville is a tough place to play.
Yeah, but it's been a tough stretch for Arkansas as well. They've played some really tough competition over the last few weeks. If they were giving me a touchdown here, I would be all over Arkansas, but only 3. I don't know. It's a tough number.
Also, 10 ranked teams will play on the road this weekend, and credit to Army and Navy, both in the top 25, both ranked for the first time together since 1960.